Joined by the immortal one himself, Matt Brown. Matt, how are you?
Very good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. So what was your reaction when you got the call that you were going to fight on this Ronda Rousey card against Tarek Saffiedine? Was he on your radar? Was that card on your radar? What did you think when you got that call?
To be honest, I mean, I was coming off 2 losses, man. I had no idea who they might have given me, so I was just pretty open to whatever, kind of felt like I was at the mercy of the matchmakers, and, it's cool, a fight's a fight, so, Tarek's a very, very good guy, a very, very tough guy to beat, so, it's going to test me, and it's going to take everything I got.
Being at quote-unquote the mercy of the matchmakers, is that an uncomfortable position to be in for you?
I guess not really, because it's not like I've ever really turned down a fight anyway.
Yeah.
It's not a huge deal, but, I don't know. Maybe if they threw me something I really didn't want, I didn't have much room to negotiate, I don't think. I just don't feel like it.
Sure, of course. And around a week ago, you put out that picture, that screen grab of the Joe Silva email, but you crossed out the opponent. Did you? I mean, one report out in Brazil was that you were fighting Mike Perry. Of the names thrown out, the guesses thrown out, was there an option that you liked better than Tarek Saffiedine? Like it came your way, and you're like, I kind of like that fight more than the one that I'm getting.
I don't know what you mean, really. I mean, that was the fight they gave me, so I just took it. They didn't offer any other fights or anything. Normally they would. Normally, Joe has many times said, would you rather fight this guy, or this guy? And he knows I always go for the highest ranked or highest profile guy. And this time it was just said, that was the email right there.
Yeah.
So. That was it. That was our entire conversation, except for me saying yes.
Wow. My question was, like, a lot of people were speculating who this person was, the name that you crossed out. And so I was wondering if you saw any of these guesses and you were like, oh, I kind of like this idea better, and you thought about bringing it. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people were trying to guess who that opponent was.
I guess I don't really get into the ideas of fights as much as just fights. Put me in there, put another guy on the other side, and let's go. I don't care who he is.
After UFC 201, did you take a break mentally, physically? Did you feel like you needed to take a break to recharge and to get your head in the right space?
I absolutely did. This was, I've said it a few times, that was the first time in my entire life that I've been dropped with a headshot in sparring at all. Any time in my life, even street fights, anything. So I wanted to learn from everybody else's mistakes. I see people all the time coming back real soon, and they end up saying, maybe they shouldn't have. Of course, you see the boxers, that's been well documented for years, the issues they've had with concussions and brain injury. So I took some time off, and I've done some things, the best things that I can do to try to keep my brain as healthy as it can be for as long as it can be, and hopefully come back, with these injuries healed up and have a fresh camp and be ready to perform at a higher level. And ideally, that equates to a win. Sometimes it doesn't, but I just want to be healthy and fresh and have a strong mind coming in, and that's all I can ask out of myself.
What were some of the things that you did to keep your brain healthy?
Probably the main thing outside of not sparring was I've been doing a ketogenic diet, which is kind of getting a little bit more popular in the mainstream these days. It was originally a cure for epilepsy, and there's a lot of research in the past, 5 or 10 years, for cancer and diabetes and all these things. And one of the things that I was reading about was it's helped with TBI, traumatic brain injury. So I thought, hey, what's the worst thing that could happen? And since I've done the diet, I've absolutely just loved it and fell in love with it, and could talk about it all day long, but I won't bore you with all the details. But that was one of the things. And then not sparring as much. And then I do some games on the computer, like to help the reaction times and stuff. And just little things like that, it's just play puzzles, even like, Sudoku, however you say it.
Yeah.
Just things like that, just constantly keeping the brain working. It's I treat it like a muscle like any other. It has to be exercised to stay strong.
Did you see the story last week that Jordan Parsons, who tragically passed away in that hit and run car accident, was diagnosed with CTE after they examined his brain? Did you read about that?
I've seen the story. I did not get to read any details.
Well, he was just 25 and only had one loss. And this wasn't a guy who has been in wars or anything like that, pretty young in his career. That was kind of scary to read, and thinking about some of the older guys in the sport. I was just wondering if you read that and if it, affected you at all.
I plan on reading it. I think I put it on my little list of things to read or whatever. That's a perfect example. Kids die of concussions in high school football every year, and of course we see, the Meldrick Taylors and the Muhammad Alis. And I think that's probably the biggest indicator. When you see those guys. Meldrick Taylor is one of my favorite boxers of all time, and when you look at what happened to him after he fought Chavez,
yeah.
It's just as tragic as it gets. And of course, he fought more fights after, and just listening to a guy like him with so much talent, gold medal in boxer, just a flashy young guy that had all the potential in the world, and it all just went away from probably gym wars and just a lot of different things like that. But I have kids, and I want to be able to speak in sentences to them. I had a concussion last year for the first time in my life, and I tell you, man, it's no fun. I had a serious concussion, real concussion, and I wasn't finishing sentences to my kids sometimes. I actually fell over. That was when my wife made me go to the doctor. I literally got up and fell down, and and you start, things like that happen. You're like, man, this sport's real. This ain't just fun and games and a paycheck anymore.
How did you get the concussion? Was it as a result of a fight or through training?
No, it was a fight. It was a fight. So, I don't like to really talk about it too much. The thing is, if it was one of the fights I lost, and I don't want it to be an excuse for losing, so that's why I haven't really mentioned it a whole lot, but since then, now I'm starting to see all the ways to help your brain and learning about how to minimize the risk of concussion. But that's why I like to talk about it, to bring it up and tell people, show other people that it can be done. I've had 22 fights now, I think, in the UFC, and I've taken care of myself very well. So, I'd like to be an example for younger up-and-coming fighters that, you can have a long career in the sport by taking care of yourself.
Yeah, and I should know, just to correct myself, that Jordan Parsons had two losses, only knocked out once in his career. Still very surprising to read that. I'm wondering, for you, who taught you about this method to keep your brain healthy? Like, who showed you that? Who opened the door for you and explained that this was important for you to do to remain healthy?
Well, various sources, but the original thought process came from myself.
Wow.
Once I had it, I never thought about it in my life until I had my own concussion. I always thought that, I guess I was one of those old school, I'm a slow learner. I was an old school dummy. You'd hear about concussions. I'd be like, oh, you're just being a pussy, and people having headaches, and I'd be like, oh, just go train. What's your problem? And but then when I had one myself, I thought, man, this is a real thing. So, I just started doing my own research. Of course, the first person I talked to was my sports doctor when I actually was diagnosed with my first concussion. And I've done a lot of research since. The guy helped me most with the ketogenic diet, which is, for me, has been a fantastic help to my brain. His name's Paul Falcone. He's a scientist at Muscle Farm. So, again, I thank them so much for providing us with the recovery tools that they provide us. But outside that, there's a place I go to called Neuroperformance Training. Of course, the Cleveland Clinic does their thing, which I was a part of when it started. I need to go back. I need to hit them up and go back soon. But, and I do a lot of my own research. I don't necessarily like to rely on others for information. I always do it myself.
you've been in this sport for a very long time, over a decade now. Looking back on the things that you did when you were younger, less educated, are you mad at yourself? Are you recall like being like, oh man, I was too hard headed, I was a dummy, I didn't listen to my body? Like, does it bother you that you didn't know as much as you did now about health and how to treat your brain?
Well, it doesn't bother me. I don't hold it over my head or anything. I don't hold it against myself, so to speak. I don't have any regrets for anything I've done. A little difference of me than most people in the sport was that I didn't come into the sport till I was like 24 years old. When you look on my record, I think I was 24 years old, 23 or 24. If you look at my record on Sure Dog, whatever, my first amateur fight, like that was when I first stepped in a gym. Like I had fights before I'd even been in a gym, but the first one that was on record, an amateur, was like I stepped in a gym like a week or two before that.
Wow.
So I haven't been taking the damage. A lot of kids, even in wrestling or boxing, whatever kind of sport they were in, they were taking damage years before that. I was only taking damage to whatever kind of damage drugs do to you. So it was a little bit different, not impactful,
Sure,
not high impact damage. So I didn't play high school football or anything like that. So I think for me it's a little bit different in that regard. But I never would look back and regret anything I did, because I think I've done a great thing coming from nothing, a low life, headed for prison or dead or whatever, to becoming close to a champion so far in the UFC, and I still plan on being a champion in the UFC. So I'm happy with everything I've done so far, and I don't have any regrets.
I remember being at that fight in Atlanta back in July when Jake Ellenberger, who was kind of going through his own struggles as a fighter, he finished you, and it was shocking because, like you said, we've never seen you in that position before. It was relatively quick. Emotionally, how did you deal with the loss?
That was probably emotionally the toughest loss in my career, and I'll tell you what my reasoning is that I always wins and losses have never really been a huge thing to me. It's never really like the primary focus. I just want to do the best I can, be happy with myself on Sunday, because I know I gave it all that I had, win or lose. That one, I didn't feel like I gave it all I had. I think I took it way for granted. I didn't show Jake enough respect. I learned the hard way. The hard thing about this sport is, a bad day at the office, can be like that. Where it's a really bad day, right? So, so I mentally, that was the first time I think in my career that I've ever had a mental slip up like that, where I just didn't respect my opponent, was overconfident. And I don't like that out of myself. So I have to go back and change that, and I plan on doing that, So I don't know if I'm going to win my next fight or not, but I know that I'm going to have a lot of respect for my opponent. I'm going to come in better than I've ever been before, and that's all I can ask out of myself.
Wow, well, I appreciate you being so honest about that. I don't think a lot of people would admit that. So did you just not train as much? Were you just like, Jake Ellenberger's washed up, I'm going to roll right through this guy?
I trained pretty good. I mean, I had a lot of injuries, but I always train good just because I just can't help but get in there and train every day. But I in the fight, I mean, normally, I stare at my opponent pretty hard and I get pretty pumped up, but I kept looking at him like, man, like, why is this guy even in here with me? Like, I'm just going to walk through this guy. And then I'm sure, if you remember the fight, he knocked me down right away. And I thought, oh, okay, that you got one. Okay. And then I walked up with my hands down. I never put my hands down like that. So I just thought, I mean, I don't know. I don't know why it was, but it's not going to happen again. Is all I know.
And when you got to the back, when you got home, how did you deal with that? How did you handle that, knowing that you probably didn't give it your all as far as, giving him the credit that he deserves? Like, did you need to take a break from the sport? Did you not train for a couple of weeks? Emotionally, how did you deal with it, and mentally?
I dealt with it really tough. It was a really tough one, and I probably felt like Ronda Rousey and wanted to kill myself, which is after every loss. We're all the same. We all want to do it, but you know what? I got kids, man. I got 3 kids. I had to come home, be a role model to them. So I had to get up the next morning and make breakfast and show them that no matter how many times you get kicked down, you get your ass back up and do it again.
Do you really feel that way? You know, that's a pretty drastic thing to say. Does that really cross your mind?
What's that?
Saying that you want to kill yourself?
Well, my point, I guess, is you really do feel like you want to kill yourself. Like you feel like that low of a person. Like you know what I mean? When you just, you know, you get beat up like that in front of, you know, millions of people, your friends and family. And, you know, I mean, it's not right to feel that way and you shouldn't feel that way, but you do feel that way. And, you know, I'm fortunately, you know, I'm mature enough to be able to handle those feelings and you know, not act on them, obviously, but yeah, of course. I mean, I guess it's more of an expression that you
Sure.
really do feel that low at that time.
And so okay, so you have that, and you have to go home to your family, like you said, make breakfast and things like that. Your oldest sons, they are twins. How old are they?
They're 6 years old now.
Are they at the point where they ask you? Of course, they ask you. I'm sure. Did you win or lose? Do they kind of understand what you do now? And is how do you explain to them that you didn't win and what happened, or do you try to like keep that away from them?
No, I talked to them about it completely, and again, like when you talk about like the sadness of losing, the tragedy. Yeah, I have to tell my kids. Yeah, Daddy didn't do it. They see the black eye. They see the, you know, the marks on the wrist, or, you know, they see the cuts. They see all that stuff. Right? So I have to explain to them, and then, you know, sometimes you hear them say things like you know, oh, you're going to fight. I hope you win because you didn't win last time, or, you know, they don't understand that you know, if an adult said it, you get pissed, right? But it's a kid, so. Yeah, that's a very difficult thing, but you know, again, it's all about teaching them the lessons. I think there's a lesson you can teach your children out of any situation that arises in life. So this just happens to be a great way to teach them a lesson. You know, sometimes you're going to get knocked down, but you always get back up and keep moving forward.
Right. Did you tell the UFC that like you will tell them when you're ready to come back, or did they come to you? Like, how did you decide that, okay, I'm ready to accept the fight, I'm ready to get back in there?
You know, I've been around the UFC for long enough. Me and Joe still have a good relationship, and you know, back in the day, they would just call me and say, "This is who you're fighting. This is when you're fighting them." So now, I you know, I have some tenure, and I called Joe and said, "Look, you know, this is my personal timeline, and if that works for you, I appreciate it. If not, just let me know so I can figure it out." And he was totally cool with it, so it worked out.
That back and forth is going to come to an end. Are you going to be sad when Joe leaves?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I hope Joe as a person is happy and lives a fulfilling life and everything. That's the important thing, but I don't have any idea how it's going to change, so I don't know if I'll be happy or sad from a business perspective.
That's true. And so you have this important fight. You've lost 2 in a row now. Do you feel like this is do or die for you? I mean, you've been there before. You've stared at a 4-fight losing streak, and you've overcome that. Does this feel reminiscent of where you were a few years back?
You know, it does. Yeah, it brings back some old memories, you know, and not the good kind. So,
yeah.
You know, I don't know. You know, I'm just gonna. I always say that I look at each fight as my first fight and my last fight. But that's always, you know, that was another one, I guess, with Allenberger. Like I didn't really have that mentality going in. I think I came in like it was like a stepping stone. You know, that's how I looked at him, was a stepping stone. Like as if they put him in there for me to just get back on the winning track, just to be a W on my resume, and get rid of him, as what I was assuming. So now, yeah, I have to change that mentality back, man, and I have to really practice what I preach here. And this is going to be my first fight. This is going to be my last fight. So, you know, January 1st or December 31st, we'll see what happens from there. But I have no plans beyond December 30th right now. So
if I ask you, like, perfect world, how many fights would you like to fight, you know, before you move on? You can't even answer that?
Well, I could answer that. So I'm not, when I do say that, like, you know.
Yeah.
If it was a true thing, you know, like December 30th was my last fight, like I would change a lot of things. But no, I mean, I want to No, I want to have the most fights in the UFC. I know Bisping probably, I think, has the record now. I'd like to have over 30 fights. I want to keep going till I can't go no more. That's my goal. And I want it to be in the UFC, though, and I want to be at the top level. It can't be, having, a bunch of fights on the fight pass, fighting debut fighters, because I can't beat the top 10. So I have to make sure that is fulfilled also.
Are you going to do anything differently from a training perspective for this fight to get back on track?
I'm going to train a little smarter and train a little harder.
Okay.
So I'm trying to do every single fight. So, but I feel better too this time. So I think the ability to train smarter and harder will be there.
One last thing for you, Matt. And again, I really appreciate your honesty. It's you've always been that way, so this is no surprise. But I appreciate you talking about some maybe not so pleasant things. Earlier in the show, Uriah Faber announced that he's going to retire in December, that his fight on December 17th is going to be his last fight. And I'm reminded of what you told me in Atlanta prior to 201, saying that you kind of consider yourself, last of the Mohicans, a dying breed, so to speak, in the UFC. How many of your kind do you think are left? Do you think that you're the only one left? Do you think that there are like 2 or 3 left? The things are changing. It's sort of a new era coming into play here with the new ownership and fighters retiring. Do you think about that sort of thing? And do you have any idea like how many are like you left?
There's definitely some like me left, that's for sure. Sometimes I say shit that I don't even know why I say it. I don't know. I mean, I do kind of feel that way, like, there's not, there's a lot of prima donnas coming in, and everybody wants to get on Twitter and talk about things instead of just fighting it out. I'm kind of a traditionalist. I really liked back in the day when it was, guys would just fight, man, and that's what it was about. It was about the fight, and it wasn't about the hype and the talk. And I really love that. I'm kind of a purist for the sport, and so that's kind of what I was alluding to, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. I guess, I sit there and talk about it, but I don't know. I didn't put enough thought into it to really be out there saying it in public either. So I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this then. Is it important for you to stick around to teach the younger generation how it should be? Like, do you take that responsibility?
Well, I got to be intelligent too. What happens a lot of times with people that try to do that is, they don't evolve, right? They don't. Right. The new breed has something to teach us too. So, I want to stick with the times and not be caught up in the old school way of doing things. And, but I do feel a responsibility to pass my knowledge. The idea of getting things is so you have something to give. So, I do want to give back to the community and I like to be a role model, for the younger generation and have something to give to them. But that's not a static thing. It's not, you just have something to give. And I say, you got to keep developing yourself too. So I'm not going to be that old school guy, acting like that. I think you guys what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope there's a lot of young fighters reaching out to you for advice, because Lord knows you could teach them a thing or two about this fight game. I hear your youngest in the background, so I will let you go, Matt. Thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it. Thank you for the honesty and the candor. Really, really appreciated you coming on. So I wish you the best of luck in training, and looking forward to your fight against Tarek Saffiedine on December 30th. Good luck to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, sir.
All right, there he is, Matt.